3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash, and it is time for Ash Wednesdays. That's right. I figured if Marvel can do it every week, why can't I? I'm rebooting to number 1, baby. It's the same great content, but all new number 1. Get it while it's hot. Collect it now. You can find this in the trash if you know where I live later on. Anyways, so I've been doing my weekly show every week on Wednesdays, and I used to call it the In and Out Weekly Comics Pull List. And originally the idea of calling it that was I was number one, I started getting a burger, and I wanted to do this whole thing. It was like, oh, I get my In and Out burger for the week, and I get my comics, and it was like my little ritual. And then I thought, well, I love In and Out burger, and I did a whole spiel on. You can go back and see the episode. But suffice it to say, I thought also In and Out was kind of a play on words, right? So I wasn't just getting In and Out burger, but it was kind of like you could get in and out, like come in, 10-minute video, get out, move on with your day. The problem is I can't do 10-minute videos, especially on New Comic Day stuff. So I've been thinking about this for a while. I've mentioned it. If you watch the channel, you kind of know this has been in the back of my mind. Shout out to longtime channel friend and buddy on YouTube, Eric Breen, who's been an extensive resource for the channel, always providing wealth of information when I don't have it. He came up with the idea, because I was like, people, give me a name for a show. And he's like, you call it Ash Wednesday. And I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. But at first I didn't like the name. I was like, Ash Wednesday, I don't want my channel to be like ripping off like a religious holiday or whatever. Ash Wednesday is a special day, especially to me. But then it just I let it just percolate, over a couple weeks. And today I just thought about like adding the S, Ash Wednesdays. And Ash Wednesdays isn't a thing. There's just one real Ash Wednesday. And I also thought God didn't name Ash Wednesday. It's a thing that men came up with to acknowledge a greater thing. The name Ash Wednesday in and of itself is not actually some sort of sacred thing. So I was kind of overthinking it. I added the S to differentiate. It's Ash Wednesdays, play on word. God, Wednesday is such a weird looking word, isn't it? So that's what it said. There's not going to be a huge difference in the show, at least immediately, but it's going to just differentiate myself. Plus, I don't really have the right to use In and Out, and I know In and Out is extremely, extremely hard on enforcing their trademark and people using their name. Even if you have the best intentions, they are aggressively protective of that. So I was like, I don't want to get in any. I don't want to get a cease and desist letter or anything like that. I love In and Out Burger. I'm going to continue to have their burgers every week. I promise you, this is the good Ash. I'm not being locked away in a basement. So let's get on with the show, shall we? As always, we start off with our Marvel number ones. Ash, this is the first episode. What do you mean, as always? So part of the show I've come up with is this idea that I'm going to go over Marvel number ones. And we're going to poke fun of Marvel every week. This week, we got Powers of X number 1. It's the sequel to House of X number 2. No, it's not. This is confusing. It's the sequel to House of X number 1, which came out last week. Now we got Powers of X number 1 this week. Yes, I can hear you guys in the background saying, it's Powers of 10, you moron. I know. If they want to be Powers of 10, then they need to do this. This is how you make a 10. That's a Roman numeral 10. If you make exactly the House of X exactly the same, stupid. Also stupid, $5.99. This was a small pull list for me, and I'm going to get to that later. Also, it cannot be a week. There was 1 week. It was an anomalous. Someone must have dropped the ball at Marvel. There was 1 week this year so far where there was not a Star Wars number 1. Just once. By the way, I think this is Legacy number 32 was episode. Age of Resistance Special #1. So this isn't just like the normal Age of Resistance #1s. And by the way, there's never a #2 on any of these books. So if you look at the cover of this book, it's got a picture of Admiral Holdo. And I just know that the original title was Age of Resistance Holdo #1. And then someone with the brain over at Marvel said, no. We actually want to sell a few issues. So they just changed this name to Age of Resistance Special. It's just there's no reason. Why is this special? Why? There's no series of this. All of them are special, aren't they? Oh, God. Secret Warps, Iron Hammer, Annual 1. Okay, I guess this is a joke of a book anyway, because it's like warp mixing two different character types together. Iron Hammer, I think that's like Iron Man and Thor mixed together into this new character. It's all goofy, but there's no ongoing series of this. How do you have an annual of a title that there's no book? And also, these are all sequels to each other. This is part 5 of the Secret Warp series. What it is an excuse to make #1 every issue in #1. And I guess they're putting annual in there to make you feel like they're not doing this janky gimmick. Conceal it as much as possible. If we call it an annual, people will forget. This is Secret Warps #5 is what this is. Iron Hammer is like whatever. Death's Head #1. The only book, by the way, that's $3.99, which is still way overpriced for comic books. Marvel just is pushing that envelope. Look at this. Death's Head #1. It's a British comic from like, I think, no, it's not 2000 AD, but it's like Marvel's answer to 2000 AD. They're trying to do this like that crazy punk style, like a Judge Dredd style comics. So it's written by Teenie Howard. I was like, oh God. Marvel's funny because they make sure that they hire Asians to write all the Asian books and black people to write the black books and then gay people to write the gay characters. But then they don't ever actually hire like hardcore people to write the hardcore characters. Teenie Howard for Death's Head. Oh, anyways. All right. So, events. I got to talk about this. But before I do, I got to introduce my co-host. This is Stan the Man. He's with us every week. Every episode, as a matter of fact, I do the Ash on Comics daily shows. And this is our trusty sidekick and mascot, Forky. He's also intern for the channel. Forky is our resident expert on trash. And Stan helps the channel because he's our resident expert on great comics. So together, they really help me with the channel. I want to make sure I introduce them. They brighten up your day. Every time you should just look at these guys. Come on. How can you not smile when you think about them? Well, I'll tell you one way you cannot smile when you think about Stan. Close your eyes and ears. You don't want to hear this. So, earlier in the week, or about last week, it was earlier in the week, I don't remember exactly, Alyssa Wong made the news in comics. Recently just got hired by editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, C.B. Cebulski. And why this is a big deal is because Alyssa Wong had called C.B. Cebulski racist. But yet, that didn't prevent Alyssa from getting hired at Identity Politics Marvel. Remember, the pros will tell you everyone's hired on merit, but what they mean by that is merit is showing your ultra-progressive fascism and hate for America and white people, especially if they're males. That is what merit actually means, and they actually are hired on that level of merit. Not actual merit of ability to do comics or anything. Alyssa Wong hasn't done any comics. I'm sure she's going to write ultra shitty comics. And that made news, and everyone's like, oh my God, why would you do that? Oh, hold, give someone your beer for a second, okay? Because hold on. There's a news story that got broke to me by our friend Jeremy at the Quartering. Bounding in Comics has done a follow-up article. And I've shared Jeremy's video on my Twitter feed. You may have seen it. Look at this tweet from Alyssa Wong. And if you're not watching the video, I'm going to read it to you. Now, remember, I'm reading someone else's. This is not me speaking. Fuck Stan Lee. So what if he's dead? He's still a racist thief and an appropriator of culture, just like that jerk Cebulski. If I ever work at Marvel, I'll tear down as much of Stan Lee's so-called legacy as possible. Hey, Joe Quesada, remember how you tried to tell us all that you hired people on merit and everything? Explain this. Explain this. Explain this. Number one, fuck Stan Lee? No, fuck you. So what if he's dead? What the hell is wrong with you? Jerk Cebulski? I don't like Cebulski. I don't even call him a jerk. I criticize what he does at Marvel. I think what he does is obvious in hiring you, shows that he has no balls and he's no businessman and he's no sense of helping the company. I don't call him a jerk. If I ever work at Marvel... So, imagine saying this in an interview. So, why should we hire you? Well, if you hire me, I'll tear down as much as Stan Lee's so-called legacy as possible. When can you start? Holy shitballs. Please, if you follow me on Twitter, or if you go, Jeremy does a much better video on this than me. Share these things. Share this. Please share. Retweet. Get this out. Encourage other people to retweet this. Right? This is... All right. That leads me into my next thing. Shawn Events. Well, what's that all about? Well, I've recently been talking to my boy Wes over at Thinking Critical. He runs a great channel, does great videos. You should follow him. He is, I don't want to say upset, but he is really dismayed, really agitated, just not liking this whole new DC Year of the Villain thing. It's got him kind of fired up. And I've had some discussions with him, some little bit of arguments or whatever, because I have a completely different view than Wes. And that's fine. It's fine. I love that. I love that we all have different views. We can talk and, exchange ideas, hear each other out. And at the end of the day, we're all still friends. No harm, no foul. As Wes admits in his own videos, not everything's for him. He understands that. But it made me kind of wanted to chime in on that because, as usual, I'm watching people on YouTube, and you can kind of see some of my history here. There's that Jeremy video. So Wes did a video just recently, DC Comics October release slate. It's a previews video, but it's really a commentary on events, and especially this upcoming or the current events rolling out the Year of the Villain. And he explains a lot of his ideas of why he doesn't like it and so forth. And also, coincidentally, around the same time I just was listening to this in the drive-thru at In-N-Out, comic events that mattered. Perch is a retailer, and I'm not sure where he's at. I think he's in Washington State. I can't remember where Perch is. But that's what it doesn't matter. He's a comic book retailer. He's a comic book fan. He's got a great Twitter presence. He's got a great mindset for comics and the industry. This is a guy, obviously, that's not just a guy hawking books, but he loves comics. And he's really even-keeled. He doesn't get on there and all make fiery, salty videos. He just talks about things, and he's very rational. And this is the kind of videos we need more of. Fortunately, Perch is one of the most prolific YouTubers I know. He makes videos after video. I mean, he just literally craps out videos like no tomorrow. But I don't mean that in a negative way. He's got good insight. And I like this video. He did comics events that matter. He goes back and talks about when comics used to matter. Not just comics, but the events. Like when we cared. Nowadays, he starts talking about how events everything in the world's going to change. And it's, comics will never be the same. And then you read the event and nothing actually changed, and comics just go on as normal. Nothing happens. He uses the recent War of the Realms as an example. By the way, War of the Realms was 79 issues long, and nothing happened. Oh, Valkyrie died. Sorry. Like, that didn't change jack squat. Perch talks about this more. But anyways, I want to talk about events, and I don't understand. Some people aren't liking events. And now I understand why you don't like War of the Realms. I mocked it. It was a joke. That's an example of events done wrong. But there used to be a time when events were fantastic. I still remember to this day Infinity Gauntlet, one of the best done events of all time. Part of the reason was because the main Infinity Gauntlet storyline, 6 issues long, is just an incredible comic. It is what comics should be. It is the epitome of, oh my God, they could never make this into a movie. That's why we have comics. This would be $1 billion budget. It is action-packed. It's suspenseful, right down to the last issue. Love that book. We still talk about it 20 plus years later. Now, that event crossed over in some other books. It was leading up to the Infinity Gauntlet. There's some books that had, some spin-off stuff. And then when it was over, they had some aftermath books. But no one complained. Really, everyone was excited and happy. Now, fast forward to today. Most of the time, a lot of people in my circles, the event's coming out, shake their head, roll their eyes, smash their forehead into a brick wall, whatever. There's a lot of negative reactions. And I kind of get that. I mean, War of the Realms, like I said, is the epitome of events done wrong. But not every event is bad. And I want to credit this new DC Year of the Villain, I think, is a really good thing. Number one, it started off with a 25-cent issue. You can probably still find this at comic stores if you haven't got it. I've got 2. They were giving them out at Free Comic Day, so I was like, I'll take another one. I'll pick these books up. It's $0.25. I flipped through that comic thinking it was just going to be some ad pieces and just be try to convince me to buy more books. And it does, but let me tell you, it's 3 comic book stories. And they aren't half-assed comic book stories. They were good comic book stories. I think I did review this on my channel too. I read that and I was like, wow, I'm very interested now. I enjoyed what I read. And I got great value for 25 cents. DC didn't try to hawk me some $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, DC Year the Villain Alpha, So like prelude books. So no, they're like, please, we think you're gonna like our book. We think you're gonna like our idea so much, we're gonna sell it to you for less than cost, right? 25 cents. That's a great thing. We should encourage that more. Number 2, this event appears to be, we haven't seen it all play out, and obviously things can change after today, but it appears to be a simple thing where it's like a 6-issue-ish miniseries of the Year of the Villain that outlines this whole plot of Lex Luthor giving away everything he ever had so that he can arm the villains of the DC universe with the very tools they need to defeat, ultimately, their nemesis. So that's a neat idea. I'm like, oh, okay. He wants to bring about Doom. For the first time ever, Luthor has something to really believe in besides himself. And now he's given away everything to try to make it happen. Now, instead of having War of the Realms, where it's gotta buy this little miniseries and that miniseries, and then it crosses over into this book, and then pick up this issue, and you've got to print out this special reading list so you can follow along, and meanwhile you've bought 100 books. No, they're not doing that. It's these stories will go over into their own books, and if you're curious, how does Catwoman play out? How does Batman deal with his villain or whatever? You can read those books, and presumably people just buy the books that they're into. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going to go buy, it's not like I'm sitting here going, you know what, I don't really normally buy Harley Quinn, but I'm really curious about her crossover in this. No. But I do buy Hawkman, so I'm curious. You can see here, there's the Hawkman cover for 18. I'm curious to see how that plays out. I'm not required to buy other books to follow this storyline. And I think that's a good idea. I think that's the opposite of predatory. Marvel does these predatory practices, the gimmicks to get you to buy extra books and do all this. But DC is saying, we want to have an event. We want you to be excited about things. And we're going to try to make it as fan-friendly as possible and not get you to buy 1 million books if you don't want to, but still be able to participate and enjoy it. I think that's a good thing, and I think that should be encouraged. Now, Wes has some other, and I'm not picking on Wes. Wes is just the guy I talk to a lot, and there's other people that share similar ideas. But one of Wes's ideas was that, this dark imagery, you probably can't see it so much on camera, but this Hawkman, he's like, he reads his comics with his son, who's really young and stuff. And he's like, I don't want to read this to him. He would be scared. It's not appropriate. He's like, I've been reading Hawkman this whole time. It's been fine. Then all of a sudden, and those are valid complaints. I totally understand. I think those are separate complaints to the event. I don't think this makes events bad. I think this is just an execution that what have you. And to his other points, he's like, I don't want to break my runs, and now I'm forced to break my runs. And you're right. Everyone's got different perspectives and different views. But I just wanted to point out, while we're having these negative views and things that we can justly criticize, I'd like to at least give credit where credit's due. And I want to at least applaud DC and pat him on the back and say, you know what? Thank you for making an event that doesn't try to, prison rape me. You're not trying to be predatory towards the stores. You're not trying to be predatory towards the fans. And you're doing events the way we used to like them. So I just wanted to point that out and give credit where credit's due. Comicsgate is dead. Whew. All right. So Comicsgate is something that I have believed in for a long time. Well, it's what got me back into comics, actually. It's funny because people would call it a hate group, but people call Comicsgate a hate group, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I got into Comicsgate because of my love for comics. I got back into comics because of Comicsgate, and the fans' love for comics was the enthusiasm was contagious. But alas, over the 2 years I've been a part of this movement, there's no more Comicsgate. I mean, there's a group out there calling themselves Comicsgate, and many of these people in this group still share the ideas. They still believe in the original ideas of Comicsgate, which is just to serve as a reminder. The original ideas were don't proselytize in mainstream comics. Don't change the characters, to fit your social agendas. You owe it to the fans that made these characters possible and made them a success to respect those characters and therefore respect the fans. The second thing is be professional to the consumer base. You call yourselves professionals, you act professional. The customer gives you money for your product. Your job is to entice the customer. You're not paying us to read your books. We are not owed anything to you. Human decency suggests that we conduct ourselves in a reasonably civil manner, but if we get upset and we yell and scream at you, tough titties, right? We are the customer. We give you money. And there's a line to cross. I don't think you necessarily need to tolerate everything just because we pay you money. You don't need to tolerate us harassing you or stalking you or just being ultra vile and stuff like that. That's completely understandable, and I'm not trying to say that. That's never what we were suggesting. But to go onto Twitter and tell customers that they're white bigots and they're Nazis and they're racist and all this stuff just because they said they didn't like your book, no, you're in the wrong. Comicsgate formed because of these ideas. That's what Comicsgate was. It was an idea, and then you could either ascribe to it, you say, yep, that's how I feel, or no. And if you did ascribe to it, you put the hashtag Comicsgate to show like sort of this allegiance, to say, yep, these guys over here, I feel that same thing. I'm part of that. That's what I feel. Well, about a year ago, things sort of changed because there's pros involved in all this, and they got sort of excommunicated or whatever, if you will. hopefully you know the story. I'm not going to elaborate here now, but they started up this little indie group to sell comics, which is fantastic. It's fine. Sell comics, make a ton of money. I hope you do. I hope you become the next Marvel. Great. Do great. I'm a big supporter. I've always been a big supporter of indie comics. But they sort of took the Comicsgate name, and that's not right. I've argued this. I continue to argue this with various comics pros. I don't hate them. It's a difference of opinion. It's a difference. We don't agree, right? I'm not telling people not to buy their books because I disagree with them. Everyone has their own opinions and can see the way they are. But in this new, what they call the Phase 2 Comicsgate, I call it Neo Comicsgate, a new fandom came into being. And part of that was because one of the largest pros, Ethan Van Sciver, did a big, not a hiatus, but he kind of took this detour for a while where he was covering Star Wars films and he was hating on them and all this stuff. And he built a really big audience on outrage culture of fans that were pissed off at what happened. And it's, they call it the fandom menace and all this. Fandom menace. I don't think I said phantom menace. Whatever. A lot of these people aren't invested in Comicsgate. And this culture, this outrage culture, has sort of poisoned things, and it's become internal. There's a group called War Campaign that are big fans of Ethan Van Sciver, and they started just really turning on other Comicsgaters, so many other fans, and now a lot of pros have left the movement because of this. It's just become so vile. I hate using the word toxic because that just seems like that's what the progressives always tell people they are and stuff. And it's like, but it is. It's become very vile and toxic. And now I can't wave that banner. I can't say Comicsgate because in the current vernacular, Comicsgate doesn't mean what I just described and what it used to mean for years. It now means these idiots over here who are doxing people, harassing them on social media, insulting. They're behaving exactly the way that Comicsgate was like, please don't act like this. So you can't use it anymore. I still subscribe to those ideas that I said. I just don't think they're Comicsgate. That's not Comicsgate anymore. Comicsgate is dead. It's been killed. Someone's walking around in its skin, and that's disgusting. So for me, my own personal banner, and I invite anyone who wants to use it, I use hashtag what would Stan do? Because as you know, I'm a big fan of the man, and he is someone who's brought a great amount of joy to lots of fans over the years, and he's always seemed to get it right. So Stan has a bill of rights, the customer rights that he has, that I'll bring out at a different time. This video's gone on way too long already. I haven't even got to the comics, so let's get to the burger. That's always first, right? Can't even open this. Try and do this in one hand. Tip for amateur YouTubers like me, use the pause button liberally. You can do lots of cool things. So, boom, boom. Oh, I like it when they lie the burger down. Sometimes they leave the burger standing up and then the box kind of smashes it. Look at this bad boy. I've had people on social media tell me In-N-Out sucks. I'm just like, what world are you living on? If you hate hamburgers, I can see saying In-N-Out sucks. But one guy was on Twitter and he was like, In-N-Out sucks. And I was like, whatever. And then he followed up with a tweet saying it's all about Wendy's or something. And I was like, look, Wendy's is okay fast food. It's no In-N-Out. I'm telling you. The quality of meat that In-N-Out uses, which they control from the cow to the slaughtering house, to the packing house, to the store, they control every part of the chain, is of the utmost quality. Their standards are way higher than USDA. In fact, the USDA has an office in the LA packing plant for In-N-Out, and you can get a tour of that plant. And they'll always brag about how the USDA that office is always empty, the government's never around because there's no reason to be. So anyways, you looked at that burger long enough. I'm going to eat it and we're going to talk comics. Those burgers always hit the spot. Apologize, not in advance, but just now I apologize. The video is going to be longer than I really want to. I'm trying to keep these around 30 minutes. This is my target. This is a double-sized or bonus-sized first issue, right? That's what they say. I got these Krakoa. If someone knows how to pronounce this correctly, I always thought it was Krakoa or Krakoa or see, I'm like second guessing. I hear everyone pronounce it a little bit different. I've heard of Krakoa. I was saying Krakoa. Yeah. Anyways, I got those seeds. Now I don't want to plant them because I don't want to open them. I kind of like the gimmick. But we'll see. Here's my receipts. As always, you have to show your receipts because SJWs who don't buy comics also think you don't buy comics. Because remember, it's human nature to think other people think like themselves, think like you do. Liars don't believe other people. Thieves don't trust other people. And people who don't buy comics think other people don't buy comics. But yet somehow the industry maintains magically, successfully. Who knows? I am a small fish. I do not have a large pool. This was an expensive week for me. I'm trying to keep it under 25 bucks, which would be $100 a month. But because you'll see, prices are going through the roof. Let's start off with Back Issue Binge. That's a shameless plug for my boy Dave Asanowicz, who I don't know if he's been able to make it this far in the video. This guy makes excellent pull list videos that are about 2 minutes long. Put mine to shame. And they're high energy. I love his videos. But he has a channel, Back Issue Binge. He hasn't done much with it lately. I guess he's been busy or whatever. But this is my back issue for the week, Daredevil 5, because my boy's Bats let me down. He got me the first 3 issues of Daredevil digitally. And he's like, I'll get you 4 and 5. And then he's like, I'm noping out of mainstream comics. And I was like, what? But I need my heroin fix. So I can't find these. And I was looking through the bargain bin and there was $2. But it's a little bit, you can't really see it on camera. It's got a little dink right here. I'm going to see if I can press it out, fix it. But for $2, I get to read it. Now I just need to find number 4. All right, this is sort of a back issue, but not. This came out last week. This is House of X number 1. I put this in my bin. I was at the comic book store, and it was sold. I got there 15 minutes after it opened, and this was almost completely sold out. All they had were a couple of the alternate covers, which all the alternate covers look shitty, terrible. I hate the alternate covers. And I was like, I don't really want those. And I was like, I wasn't really looking to get it anyway. I was just kind of curious. I was like, wow, holy shit, they're all sold out. And then as I was collecting my books and walking back on the counter, I saw this laying there. And I was like, is it damaged? Is it something wrong with it? So someone just didn't want it, put it back, I guess. So I was like, I'll grab this. And then I still wasn't sure about getting it. I was like, $5.99. So I was like, you know what? Just put this in my bin for me. They're like, all right. So I could decide that. Because I'm sure if I was like, I don't want this, they're not going to bitch because it's sold out, right? People will pay. I'm sure people will pay more than $5.99 to get a hold of this now. So I didn't want to put it back anyway. So I was like, I'll just pick it up. I did read this. Comics Quirks. Our boy Jimmy at Comics Quirks he was nice enough to give me a digital code for it, so I was able to review it. Please watch, you can watch my review if you're curious. I've talked about this book to death. I've since come to better understanding of how I feel about this book. My initial review, I had struggled in getting out my thoughts coherently, so I apologize if you watch that review and it seems a little bit jumbled or incoherent. That's kind of why. I've since had a chance to be in a discussion and do live streams about it and talk with people, and now my views are more solidified. This is Powers of X, aka Powers of 10. This is an X, this is a 10. Can you tell the difference? Right? X, 10. Very clear difference. You should be able to identify. If you can't, well, that's because you're probably a bigot. So I might as well, you have to pick this up. This is really House of X number 2, but because Marvel is out to rip you off, they're charging you $5.99 and putting another number 1 on it. So bend over and take it. Speaking of bending over and taking it, no, this is The Batman Who Laughs, Scott Snyder. It's $4.99 an issue. I'm not really happy with that. DC's kind of dipping their toes. However, this is a high quality publication. It's got the cardstock covers. They've got great art. The paper is much higher quality paper than what Marvel's doing. I have to hand it to them. These House of X books, while still not the quality of DC, are not the complete trash of their normal books. I wish I could show you on camera how thin this is. I was like, is this like a preview book? Like one of those 16-page, like it is razor thin. That's because the paper quality that Marvel uses, it's almost like a magazine. It's super thin paper, which, you know, they're trying to save on costs. But these books are just like, they're nothing. It's 20 pages of just super... at least they're using a slightly better quality paper on these books, which they should. They're charging you $5.99. So they probably upped the overall cost of paper by 10 cents, but then charge you $2 extra. So they're making money. And finally, you know, it's the week of Batman. DC is the company of Batman. I mean, that is their name, Detective Comics. So here we got Batman. Here we got more Batman. Yep, I've already bought, I showed you on my last pull, I bought this last week. I kept this on my pull list. I was like, yeah, this. They're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, save it. Because I was like debating on which cover to get. Let me tell you something about Batman White Knight. If my reviews on this are not convincing enough, which please, I said my X-Men view was a little bit incoherent, where I feel like I really nailed the White Knight review. It does spoil it, so you should read it, then watch it. Or if you're just convinced you're not going to read it, so you don't give a shit about spoilers, I guess go ahead and let me try to convince you otherwise. It's not going to spoil too much because there's still 7 more issues to go. So the fact that I'm buying a second copy of this should tell you something. I normally do not do the alternate cover thing. I don't like it. But when it's something I truly, truly love, I kind of like having extra stuff in my collection. Oh, but the Batman shenanigans doesn't end there, folks. Oh, boy. Last Night on Earth. It's a good thing these two didn't come out on the same week. This is 5 stars. The number 1 of this was 5 stars. I'm hoping this issue is just as good. I cannot wait to read this. So good. I did 2 videos on this, a spoiler review and a non-spoiler review of number 1. So you can, if you're curious to know more about this and not be spoiled, this is only a 3-issue series. I want to also point out something. This is $5.99. It's premium prestige format bound. It's 60 pages, not 40 pages. 60, 40, staple, cheaper paper, high quality, embossed cover, thick pages, prestige, $5.99. Scott Snyder writing with Greg Capullo art, A+ in every level. This book, it's only $5.99. $5.99. Marvel's ripping you off. So all these are good. These 3 series. DC just is like, other than the normal Batman series with Tom King, like DC knows how to do Batman. They've got 3 top quality Batman series here. None of them are the actual mainstream Batman. They're doing something wrong. One of these, well, this is actually both Scott Snyder, but you can do 3 different Batman books that are all awesome, but you can't do the mainstream Batman book awesome. Tomasi's doing a pretty good job on Detective Comics. Sorry, I'm not going to turn it into a rant. Get those 2 books. Finally, here's another book to get, Road 300, Spawn. This started on $296, I think it was. $296? Yes, $296. issues 296 and 297, if you can find them, are a fantastic jumping on point for Spawn. They actually enticed me to jump back into Spawn. I was a fan back in the 90s. I have the first, 20-something issues, maybe 30. I don't know. I have to go back to my collection and look. It's been 20 plus years. But I took a hiatus of comics, and when I came back into comics, I was just like, man, I was happy to see Spawn was still going. I was like, damn. But I was like, I'm like 200 issues, 250 issues behind. But this 296 and 297 are sort of they're all kind of exposition. So it's not exciting if you've been reading them necessarily the whole time, but for new fans, those 2 issues sum up the entire history. They're like, okay, we're going to tell you everything you need to know of what's happened from 1 to now in Spawn. So you can then go forward and feel like you understand the story. So look at this. $2.99. You want to talk about ripping you off? This is the guy who left Marvel Comics because he hated the way they did business, and that was back when Marvel did way better business. Not trying to rip you off. $2.99. Speaking of not trying to rip you off, saw this at the comic book store today. Walking Dead 193, the final issue, the end. Now this is the second print. Unfortunately, I can't get the one. If you were lucky enough to get a hold of the first print, congratulations, you have an instant collector's item. This might be a collector's item because, you know what, second prints are way smaller than first prints, almost always. So I picked this up because of one reason only. As a second print, I would get a first print in a heartbeat, but as a second print I normally don't get, but I got this because of a huge reason. Look at this, $3.99 price tag. This is, I don't know if you can see let's sit here and destroy my comic. I don't know if you can see, is a prestige bound, no staples, which I'm not against staples, but I'm just saying it's high quality bound, thick cover. How many pages was this? 80 pages. It's thick. This is like, if you want to know, if you've seen Detective Comics 1000 or Action Comics 1000, that's what this feels like. For $3.99. Robert Kirkman could have done this. This is the most successful indie comic that there is. Robert Kirkman could have said, hey, 193 is the last issue, order huge. We're going to have all these special covers and blah, blah, blah. Charged $8.99 or whatever for it, and he would have got it. People would have freaked out. People would have done it. He would have sold probably twice as many copies at twice the price. They're quadrupling his money. He could have done all of that, but he didn't because he respects the fans. He controlled his greed and respected the fandom that made Walking Dead possible. Without the fans giving their money, he would not be a millionaire, right? So then to bilk them for more on top of that, that's greed. Now, I live in a capitalist society. I believe in capitalism. Do what you want, but I'm also a consumer, and I have the right to, voice my opinion and say no. So bravo, Robert Kirkman, $3.99. I'm happy to pay for a second print reading copy of $3.99. By the way, I buy Walking Dead in the omnibus format. The fourth omnibus and last will cover all the Walking Dead series up to 192. So you get all 4 omnibuses. You'll get the entire Walking Dead. It's approximately 50 issues per omnibus. You can get them digitally right now for $19.99. That's 50 comic issues. This will be not included. So you only get up to 192. If you want the entire story, pay your $3.99. Get this 80-page massive issue and the omnibuses, and I will have the whole thing. So that is my pull list for the week. You saw my receipts. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the best? I think it's going to be, well, I already know. I did a review on this bad boy. Spoilers, it's 5 stars. But, so that doesn't count. I think it's this. The number 1 issue of this is one of the best comics I've ever read. I think that highly of it. This wasn't so good, but it wasn't necessarily bad. It was very flawed. I'm going to talk more about it when I do my review here. I'm I'm very much looking to this. Daredevil is a solid 4-star book. It's very impressive. I want to be able to finish my story on that. So, and this is very overlooked as well. So this is a good week for me. It's small, but powerful. We got dogs making noises. We got Stan and his pal Forky. I'm Ash on Comics. I really appreciate you watching the start of my new show, Ash Wednesdays. Give me some feedback on what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you want to see more of. If you've got ideas for show content, what I could do. Obviously, I'm not going to do anything outside the realm of the technologies I'm using. So if you want to, but basically if it involves like sitting at a desk or a table and talking about comics, something along those lines, subject matter. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If you have subject matter, leave in the comments and the feedback. Join us on Discord. I'll leave that in the description. We want to talk about comics. I'm going to try to start live streaming again, so stay tuned for that. And thank you as always. Like, subscribe, smash the bell, do all the things that you can show support. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm a small fish YouTuber. I don't make any money off of this, but I like to get the word out. I like to attract some fans. You know, and I hate using the word fans, viewers. There's no one else doing this. If you know anyone else doing what I'm doing besides Sergeant Bats, or Comic Quirks does a little bit. I mean, if someone else is doing what I'm doing, like talking about actual comics and not just industry drama 24/7, tell me. And I'm not knocking anyone doing industry drama. This is not my bag. I want more of this. I want to see other people doing what I'm doing. There's plenty of people doing great work, and I promote them, and that's their bag. They do a great job. And I'm continuing to blabber on and on. So I'm going to end it now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.